Welcome to I Hope This Helps. We have an exciting guest here. We have Mychal Rivera from NJ Gourmet in Deli. Michael, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what NJ Gourmet is.
Yeah, so my name is Mike. People call me Chef Mike, Mike Meals, or just Mike. My parents might say a couple other words, but so I mean, basically, yeah, I own NJ Gourmet. I started about 7 years ago. NJ Gourmet, we're a meal prep service. That's how we originally started. Um, Basically, we create recipes, portion meals for people, mainly for, I guess you would say, your everyday person, right? Just travel meals, stuff that you can keep in the fridge, ready to eat. And then from there, eventually I opened up the deli, which was kind of a spin-off of the meal prep menu. So the meal prep menu is more geared towards healthy, portion controlled meals. And then kind of the spin-off of it was to bring a traditional classic style deli menu. So we use some things from there and maybe a little more fat. There's some bread in there because you're dealing with heroes and bread. And then, it's like your classic signature deli. And then even from there, I started the catering menu. So there's three different three different worlds that we touched in the food business over these past couple of years. So now we're the meal prep, deli, and catering. It's amazing how, I guess you would say, just like all formed. It was never planned. It was kind of just like take it one day at a time, see what works.
Okay,
But
awesome.
that's definitely how everything started, and, I've been doing it now for about 7 years.
Okay, so what made you become a chef?
So, I've always been involved in the food business, I guess, like, growing up, especially having, like, little odd jobs, like work at a pizzeria or you were a delivery driver somewhere, valet, steakhouse, prep cook. I did all these little jobs. I never actually knew that I wanted to be in food. Like, I've always loved it. I'm a Jersey guy, so I appreciate good food, especially Jersey style, where we're known in this country as some of the best food in the world. Now, at one point, actually, I was during my time as like an entrepreneur trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a living. I bounced around. I worked a lot in sales and marketing, but I always, like I said, had a lot of little odd jobs where I was working on the side in food to bring in extra income. And one day, while I was actually a commuter working, I had tried a meal prep company. It was one of my good friends of mine, lives in Virginia, and I had tried his meals and I fell in love. I was, this is perfect. Just the fact that you can have a meal ready to go, not have to worry about ordering out, eating lunch, something healthy, something that'll give you, good protein, good sorts of carbs. I loved it. I couldn't believe how amazing it was. And in New Jersey, we never really had anything like that. A lot at the time, meal prep was it was considered very cookie cutter. You know, um, Really geared towards bodybuilding, clean eating. That was the whole concept of meal prep. At one point, I had said, "Hey, I love meal prep. I don't like the image of it, but I love how, how New Jersey is. Everybody is very big on food. So how do I create create a product that is going to, cater to everybody, something that's not just a healthy meal that's super clean. Like how do I make it flavorful? Because good food is for everybody."
Of
Y-
course.
And over time, like when I first came up with the idea, I already knew a little bit about cooking. I'd been involved in kitchens, like I said, for most of my working adult life. And then I started to really, I guess, to learn, cook myself, work with other chefs, people way better than me, way more knowledgeable than me. And then, of course, tons of research and education on my own, like, a lot of reading, trying different cuisines, bringing in different ingredients, recipes, learning different cooking methods. So from there, it grew. And just little by little, with so much practice and time and knowledge and teaching, I was able to then form my own meal prep company. And of course, there was a lot of rough patches along the way of learning, but that was where most of my cooking skills came from, was just experience essentially.
Okay.
And then even from there, like, then you have to learn all the different parts of the food business, because that's one thing they teach you is the cooking, and then there's the management, inventory, learning food waste, uh, how to consolidate a menu, and that all takes time. Took a lot of time.
So that's where I was going to get with this. So you've been in business for 7 years, right? So you've been through beginning as an entrepreneur, learning how to the business. Then all of a sudden you get thrown a curveball. with COVID, right? And now you get out of COVID, then now with all inflation. So
Yeah.
how did you manage all this in such a tough, unique market?
Definitely tough, and a lot of, a lot of curveballs came. So I would say like COVID, if you start with that, COVID was a time where everything changed because we went from a lot of in-person style, presentations, marketing to having to switch everything digitally. And at the time, I was working with, I would say, well, during COVID, working with almost a dozen different gyms that all at one time pretty much pulled our meals from there because all gyms were closed.
Okay.
That was a fearful time for me, I would say. Like I thought that, we might go out of business, but everything boomed. People were still getting paid. People still needed to eat. And believe it or not, that the single portioned meals became huge because nobody wanted somebody to touch their food. They didn't want to go to restaurants. They didn't want to deal with takeout. Everybody was looking for meal prep. So I kind of rode that wave, and okay, we pulled out of the gyms. Let's spend more time giving out meals, giving out samples, to police officers, healthcare workers. This was a big thing during COVID, especially, and not even just to do it to for marketing, but just because it was a good way of exposure to do the right thing.
Of course.
So there was all these little things that you kind of have to, I feel like, learn in business. Like there's never going to be a set game plan. Kind of have to bob and weave and figure out, get in where you fit in. For me, that was the biggest focus was like, how do we, during any major crisis like this, like how do we change and
You
change
needed
our
a pivot.
attitude,
Mhm.
pivot exactly.
So you went from to business to consumer. So
Yeah.
I'm sure social media must have boomed for you, and that's how you did it, or how'd you go about doing it?
So online definitely has been the our biggest success during this time. Google, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, any single thing that we were doing in the kitchen, we would try to film it, or pictures at the time, because at one point it used to be all pictures. You just post a picture, you get 200 likes. Then all of a sudden you started posting pictures, I'd get 6 likes, and one of them's from my mom. You know what I mean? Not getting that much content, but eventually then we started with the videos and just putting everything out there, anything we could that we liked. uh, Sean, obviously, Sean Copeland. He at the time was doing a lot of stuff with us, so we'd make sure that images were nice. We wanted to reflect our actual product, taking pictures of actual meals, no gimmicks. We weren't doing any extra waxing or weird creativity with the food to make it look more appealing. Like this is it. Like maybe we'll edit some stuff here and there, but that was really the goal was, how do we let people see the difference of this and other meal prep companies, that we're not just that cookie cutter clean brand. We're a gourmet style, restaurant quality meal prep service.
So, what was one of the hardest lessons you learned being an entrepreneur from the beginning? Was it sourcing your food, the waste, figuring out your marketing budget and what worked and what didn't? Give us a couple insights.
Believe it or not, I feel like staffing was such a difficult part too, because people always overlook it. You're so worried about the menu and what your presentation's like on social media and your marketing and sales and all that. It's great, but and I can get business, but can you keep it? Can you have the proper staff duplicate exactly what you're doing? How can you teach them? Do you know that they can manage the operation in lieu of your absence? For me, staffing was a huge factor, and making sure that, and once we saw somebody with talent, keeping them in the kitchen, like paying above market price to basically secure them. For me, that was definitely probably the biggest obstacle, was always trying to find the right people to manage the operation. And then, of course, in the food side of it, the toughest part is definitely the fluctuating prices and inventory, because it's like a clockwork every week. You got 7 days every week. Everything we're dealing with, it's not all non-perishables. I mean, you have some perishables too. So things, that'll have expiration dates. So if you don't use one thing one week, it's done.
Mhm.
The next week you have to get more product. And if you can't get it, where do you get it? And so managing that, and just that constant cycle, 7 days, every 7 days, every 7 days, there's no breaks. Those two things were the hardest flow, I would say, because again, the marketing, the sales, the food, that stuff I spent so much time in, and I was so confident in, that as long as somebody touched it, ate it, that they were gonna love it. But then you have to learn, how do you keep it running?
Yeah, that's an interesting fact, and knowing how to have your inventory on point. So, do you use systems for that, or you just know it by looks? How do you go about
Well,
it?
no, now we, in the beginning, it was definitely a lot of, your kind of improv,
Mhm.
improvisation. And over time, I started incorporating like other proprietary technology things, stuff that I've created myself. And then of course using, basic spreadsheets and things online that are already given to you, especially for like the nutrition, the nutrition consolidation. You have to be able to count your macros, they call it. So
Mhm.
how do we find the nutrition facts for each recipe based on the ingredients used? So there's definitely some software that's involved, but it's a lot of numbers. Luckily for me, like that was one of my strengths. So the numbers and finding those right formulas to make sure everything is in place is good.
All right. So, how'd you build your foundation that you felt so comfortable with numbers and entrepreneurship and all that stuff? Did it happen when you were a kid? Tell us a little bit about you personally.
I was always strong with numbers. My mom always tell you when it comes to math, I think that was just something that came natural to me. Although I wasn't always the best student because I was a little bit all over the place. That I guess that's how my parents would always tell me that they thought one day I would start my own business, just because it's not like I didn't want to say no to people, or I would always say no to people. But I was very independent growing up, did my own thing, learned things the hard way, definitely. But for business, I think that the biggest thing and success for me has been like networking and learning from people. I've been surrounded by a lot of people in my life that knew more than me, kind of like big brother style, parent style, and then of course my parents. And then over time, just using those networks from day one. Like I look at it now where I stand, and I mean I'm working with people that I've dealt with in college, dealt with in high school, family members, you name it, all different colleagues that I've had growing up that have all helped me in different departments. That's been I have to attribute a lot of my success to that because without having the networking and the build to grow, it's very difficult doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So for me, taking all my basic talent, math, food, business skills, learning, and of course I was in school. I went to college. I studied. I'd never actually completed, but I did study for 4 years, business marketing, and that helps a lot, obviously. But yeah, networking and just learning, keeping my ears open, sometimes more than other times. So
I hear you, buddy. I hear you. It's important all around, right? The lessons that we have to learn. You got to
yeah.
fall a couple times and get back up, and just appreciate that you have the support staff around you and the people that are actually pushing for you, and instead of all those haters out there, right?
There's tons of those, I'll
There's
tell you.
tons of
You gotta
those.
just kind of just ignore it all.
Yeah, we were just talking about that,
And they come
huh?
around though. Once they start seeing you do good, people come around, they see.
Yeah.
But everybody, my dad would tell me, "You're not doing things right if you don't got a few haters."
That's actually a good quote
You
right
know?
there, right? So tell us a bit some about your products and stuff like that. Like if somebody's trying to go gluten free, if somebody's trying to get a specific protein diet or, talk about it.
Those 2 things you mentioned, actually, it's funny, but those are like the 2 things that I guess we've geared towards more like as of lately. In the beginning, it was more protein based, but you start seeing over time, there's a lot of people that have those gluten-free allergies. So really having that diversified menu and making sure that you're providing a lot of options for people, because nobody wants to eat the same thing every day. So gluten-free, standard high protein diet, high carb diet. We customize keto style diets, and this is for the meal prep. A lot when it comes to the gluten-free section, I would say 80% of our menu is gluten-free.
Oh wow.
And nowadays, I mean, as long as you don't have wheat, soy, there's a pretty, small list of things that will exclude gluten from your menu, but there's a lot of ways around it. So kind of also coming up with different styles. So for example, teriyaki sauce. This is one item on our menu I'm like most proud of. It's been on the menu for at least 6, 7 years, probably the whole time of NJ Gourmet. But originally, I was making a standard teriyaki sauce, which comes with soy sauce.
Hmm.
So that already eliminates you from a gluten-free menu because it has the soy sauce in it. So we stopped using soy sauce, and I started using something called tamari sauce, which is basically a replica, but it doesn't have that gluten in there, made for people with gluten-free allergies. But now I can create something on the menu that normally somebody who's gluten-free won't want, but now they can eat too. So I've now where one market was eliminated, now I've included these people. How do you keep them in? So a gluten-free teriyaki sauce, we do it with chicken, steak, so popular. It sells out every week, and people love that. They're looking for, how could you, how could you recreate standard recipes to make them a sort of healthy, but not sacrifice on flavor? Because nobody wants to eat a boring meal. They'll get sick of it.
Yeah, of course.
So coming up with those things, but at the same time, not being too cookie cutter, not, using bland things that somebody's not going to want to eat. Like, let's say gluten-free flour. There's some stuff for like pancakes. We'll keep pancakes pancakes. If you're gluten-free, unfortunately, these aren't going to be for you. But the gourmet style approach of it is that we want to make sure that we we're creating things and then not sacrificing on quality and just the restaurant style image, because we don't want to like completely ruin our image, because that's what we are. We're a gourmet style company, and we've tried to stray away from some things like that. So I would say over time, just trying to figure out what recipes work, like what things people like, what they don't like, monitoring the sales of it, asking people, getting feedback, surveys. So the biggest part, I guess, has been just trying to cater to a bunch of different people. So it's not easy.
So is every recipe yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, every single thing. So you make your how often are you in the kitchen?
Oh, well, I
Today?
mean, personally, I'm not in there all the time. I would
Mm.
say I'm there a good amount. Now there's other staff that, works on these recipes. But yeah, initially, every recipe that's been put on the menu is something that I've constructed. Over time, I've had other chefs work with us that have pointed tons of stuff out. Like, I got to give credit where credit's due, because there's been times that, especially growing up or coming up in the industry, there's certain things that you might not know or have to learn, and you fix it because you keep your ear open and somebody else might tell you something. But now too, like, I do let some of my staff put recipes on the menu. Like, I have Chef Mike that works with me. It's also Mike, but Chef Mike, he's put a lot of different things on lately. So like the Korean beef breakfast. He's not Korean, but he's actually Filipino. He's got a good taste bud for Asian style cooking. So he put a couple Korean dishes on. He's helped work on the teriyaki glaze over time, Oreo pancakes, like little things that we work on together to make sure that it meets, the quality the quality check. We want to make sure that everything is good. We have to go over recipes, because I have to make sure it's not too much fat,
Of
not too
course.
many carbs, how big are the portions, because you have to have it meet those macros. Nobody's going to want to buy a meal that's 70, 80 grams of carbs and 40, 50 grams of fat. So how
Of
do I
course.
bring that down to 40, 50 grams of carbs, 20 grams of fat? So though that's where I really come in, if I do let somebody else work with me, just to try to make sure that we can keep it macro friendly.
Now you put up a new menu, right? A new item. Do you get a bunch of people that you trust to try it out before you actually roll it out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always I would say like a 1 week rollout period at least. I mean, the idea comes up first,
Hmm.
then I'll test it myself, make something, then do it again with the staff, get everybody's feedback. And then from there, we put out a final recipe. So sometimes it might take, 2 to 3 weeks before introduction that we actually, implement it on the menu. But yeah, we have to get somebody to taste it. And then obviously us in the kitchen, we're always tasting anything that we put out. Like, if potatoes are roasted and they're on the speed rack, taste the potato. Broccoli, taste the broccoli. I don't care if you've been doing it for 30 years and that you're using the same exact recipe, you got to taste it. You got to make sure.
I agree. And now, are you keeping up with all the trends and all the new diets and everything like that? Because I was on your website and I saw detox, right?
Yeah.
Detox juices and all that. That was
Oh
your
yeah.
that you created that yourself too?
This is the newest thing that we put on the menu. So the there's a couple of different juices that we have on there made for detox, immunity boost, you would say gut health,
That's big now.
heart health, all these things, so using a lot of root vegetables, fresh juices, fresh fruit, the vegetables. We're only using we're only using like ingredients like that to make these. So we're only using fresh foods. We're not adding any sugars, no added liquids, no preservatives. And these were obviously people have been working on these recipes for years before we ventured into that. But doing it again without putting in a preservative that's going to sit on the shelf for a month,
Mhm.
we have to, there's a shelf life with everything we do. So it's keeping it green, keeping it fresh. But that was something that we put on because people were, especially during the winter time, everyone's getting sick. They were looking for immunity boost. And that was the original concept of it because I had it just in the deli. And then I'm like, how can I put this on the meal prep menu? And then I found those bottles. I brought that into the inventory, color coordinated. So the green has the green bottle, the orange has the orange bottle, the red has the red. And that was kind of one of the newest things that we had done recently. But it's cool. I love the juicing. I juice myself like 3 times a week at least. I drink like 3 of them, plus the ginger shots. I don't know if you saw those.
Yeah, I did.
Big, huge boost of vitamins. I mean, you can exceed your daily vitamin intake just from one of those juices alone. So highly recommend them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now that was your baby coming up with that?
Yeah, I worked with another chef back in when I first opened the deli. I had brought somebody in that had a lot of deli experience just so I can really understand all the different, procedures and prep. Because again, I started with a meal prep company. So when I started the deli, it was, you need to obviously we want to do it the same way, but also you have to have proper technique and things that are going to work on your menu. So somebody came in and was like, "Hey, have you ever tried juicing?" And he brought me to a place that he liked. So I bought I loved it. I had tried a juice, loved it. Bought my own juicer, started messing with recipes. I knew my focus was those main colors because in the end, you have to kind of base it off that. So a green juice, you're going to need green vegetables for the morning sunrise, which is orange, implementing carrots. And then for the Red Sea, we use beets and strawberries. So I started with those and then play with flavors, try to figure out, you don't want it too much acid, you don't want it too sweet, you don't want it too bland. That took a lot of time over time to coming up with the exact numbers to do. And plus, the worst thing about using fresh fruit and vegetables, as you know, it's not like it's growing, or it's not like it's on a shelf and you're just buying it that's made in a factory.
Yeah.
This is growing from the ground. So one strawberry might not taste like another strawberry. So you have to make sure you're sourcing everything properly and playing with the recipes back and forth
And
constantly.
certain things are seasonal as well, correct?
Exactly.
So you gotta be able to source that correctly.
That's huge. The summertime kills us because all the transport right now, it's so hot out. Just the crops aren't the same.
Talking about your company, a lot of it's about delivery system, right? Like
Yeah.
you're delivering. How did you set that up? When you came up with the company, was that difficult? Like, where do you deliver to? What's your
Yeah, great question. So right now we're only servicing New Jersey, but yeah, we deliver to 15 different counties. So basically everywhere in North Jersey and most of Central and like we just started Ocean and Monmouth County, so 15 in total. And the initial thought was to make sure that we had fresh delivery weekly to all these different counties. So that was something that I kind of scaled in the beginning. We didn't want to offer to 15 counties right off the rip. I started with I think 3 or 4. And now that we're doing these 15, I've implemented our own route management. So we have our own vans. We have some personal drivers too. But ironically, I actually got really good with logistics because when I was a sales manager at a company back when I was 25 years old, I worked for a company that we delivered all throughout New Jersey and New York, PA, and I was in charge of like consolidating the routes. So over time, I just learned a lot of the cities and towns, so I know how to create a load manifest, and that was another system that I built within the company myself, something that we can export orders and we could properly assign them to routes, which gets tough because again, you're on that 7-day shelf life. You know that the second the food is done, you got to get it out the door and you got to get it out within that window because everybody orders by a deadline. They're expecting their food by Sunday in between 2 and 8.
So wait, let me get this straight. You're the one that's actually delivering them? Your vans, your people,
Oh
and everything
yeah,
like that? So how do you
all in house.
okay, so your business is pretty interesting to me for the simple fact that you have so many things that goes on. the prices of food changes, right? So you need to source that correctly because you got to, at the end of the day, you got to make a profit, right?
Yeah.
Gas prices go up and down. So you have to maintain all this stuff to be able to have a good ROI, right? And keep your staff going and then inflation and everything like that. So how do you manage this on a day-to-day basis? Do your prices change daily, weekly, monthly, or do you have a price point that you try to keep it at and then you try to maneuver to that? Like what's going on with that
So
all that?
sometimes I don't try to raise prices too frequently just because you don't wanna scare customers.
Of course.
So if I have to sacrifice margins a little bit to keep people happy, not a problem. But if there's a major issue, like when we had this big, uh, the breakout with the eggs, I don't know if you saw the
Of
bird flu
course,
was going
yes.
around. They had to,
Mhm.
kill off half the population of chickens in the country. So then we started sourcing from outside the country, even though it wasn't, that much more expensive. It still was, but during the time before we started, importing from outside the country, which I'm talking about, farms,
Mhm.
the prices were through the roof. So of course, in those cases, if we have to raise prices, it's fine. When it comes to gas and things like that, of course, we monitor it closely, but there's nothing really too drastic. And as needed, if we have to increase, we will. We originally started with, I think, the delivery price was $6 back in the day. It's 12 now.
Okay.
But as time went on, it's been relative with the growth. It's not like we're profiting that extra $6. Just things cost more money. But
Of
most
course.
consumers are they're aware and they're smart, so they know, when what to expect when they see that. Oh, they know the bird flu's going around. That's why this breakfast meal might cost $1 more,
Mhm.
or gas now is more expensive. So this is why it's, and I would raise it gradually over time, $1, $2, $1.
No, I'm not talking so much about the consumer. I'm glad that you're holding your prices down because
Ah,
you wanna make them all happy. I'm talking about you knowing your numbers, because at the end of the day, when
sure,
you're a businessman, you need to know your numbers, right? So knowing your numbers, the cost with everything, do you have a system that does all that? Do you
sure.
track every single number, egg, and all that stuff? How do you go about your business in that
So
way?
maybe not every single egg. I look at like the total overall, definitely. So you'll see the margins stay in a certain place, and obviously the more profit that we have, the more that we can put into the business.
Of course.
The less that we have, the less we can. And I'm the type that I try to manage all of our profit and put it back into the company. I'm not buying fancy things. I'm not that kind of guy. But yeah, of course, I have to manage and see, what weeks, what months are good, when it's not, and be smart with spending. Especially nowadays where it's the summer's coming, super slow time for food business. So trying to finagle that. But I'm not the type that I don't wanna limit my staff's hours. I don't like to put too much on the customer, the consumer. If we lose a little bit of money, or if we're not making the same money, that's a better way to put it. If we're not making the same money, then so be it. Like, the money will come. As long as bills are getting paid, everybody's eating, everybody's happy, we're good. And I'm
Of
not
course,
too
you're trying
worried.
to keep your staff there engaged because your busier months and
Yeah.
your worst months and everything like that. Keep all that into your math. Is that why you came up with the deli as well? To be able to keep everyone going in different aspects, or no?
Definitely. I mean, it was a vacant period where we were not doing anything in the kitchen at the time. So it's like, how do I maximize production out of this, kitchen that I'm paying for? And it was really a good way to implement reducing food waste. We want to make sure that we're able to still put stuff out and sell it. In that case, and then of course giving more hours to people. My biggest thing, I guess, with the deli was really trying to get also more people in for the meal prep, because not only is it just a deli, I then introduced grab and go. So
Hmm.
people could only order online meal prep back in the day. And then when I came up with the deli, and then we're like, hey, we have the store open. Why not keep the fridge stocked full of meals? So if somebody comes in for a deli sandwich, oh, what's this? Oh, you sell meals too and fresh juices. Then they learn about a product they didn't. So it's almost like cross promoting, cross advertising, two different businesses that are under the same umbrella.
So you're trying to make sure you get every dollar for every square foot that you have, and
Everything.
genius.
You have to, nowadays, and yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. What were your toughest lessons you learned recently? Because I mean, things with everybody's talking about tariffs and price of eggs, like you said, and everything like that. Gas prices for the last couple of years, like how do you pivot? How have you been able to going through COVID and all that stuff?
I would say the hardest lesson I've personally learned with business was just have everything in writing, whether it's from your suppliers, it's from another vendor or company you're dealing with, a landlord, just because things can change so quick. And then if you're caught, on the other side, you can lose everything.
Okay, because you have a
With
new vendor come in, undercut someone, you
Yeah.
sold by so much, you killed your relationship with your regular
So
one.
there was one company, I'm not going to mention the name, but there was one company that,
You could
you
cough
know,
it and say it.
well, I mean, there's so many, I feel like, with the payroll company, they were charging extra money at one point. So they're charging X amount of dollars for your payroll and like for certain services, but they weren't incorporating. And it takes a little while to realize that once you look at the budget at the end of the year. I have an accountant also who's great. And she had said at one point, like, yeah, you've spent this much extra money with this payroll company. Are you sure that this is correct? Then we had to look back into it and see, thank God we had certain things in contract showing that we didn't need that service anymore. Or back in the day where I wasn't so lucky, I had a lease with a landlord that wasn't fully signed, but they tried to break it with me at one point and kicked me out of the kitchen because they wanted to bring a bigger company in that would pay them more money. And that was a drastic period where we had to really make quick decisions to find another facility, but it all had to do with writing,
Mm,
making sure everything is put in there, or your prices. Obviously, you want to make sure your prices are locked in. So with vendors, having that set contract, that way they're not just upping everything on you. So that way I'm prepared. And from there, determining food costs and stuff has been a little bit easier once you know that everything is in writing. Like this is what I'm paying for here, this is what this service costs, this is what this is. So nowadays some of these big companies they can take you, man. They could really screw you over.
oh, I bet. Big important thing, time management. How do you work with that?
Time management. I feel like I don't get much free time anymore. I have a wife and kids too, which is like another business on its own,
Oh, trust me, I
you
know.
know? So I have a house with my wife and my 5-year-old and 2-year-old sons,
Nice.
and then I have the business. So I try to make sure that my day is divided equally. Of course, I have to work every day, whether or not it's from home or in the kitchen or even just the travel time because I got to commute a big ways. But then making sure that I have time at home to do stuff at the house because, as you know, it's like a whole other business in its own. You got to take care of the yard, you got to take care of the inside of the house, the kids, the shopping, the cleaning, and then of course, got to keep your wife happy. So, which doesn't always happen,
No.
despite what time management. But yeah, for me, time management has been just really, you kind of have to sacrifice, and you got to know, like, hey, I'm not. Although I still feel like a kid, I'm only 34 years old. I still feel like that kid where I want to be able to go to the gym all the time or go hang out with friends, go do things that, that I used to be able to do, but now you can't. So
Yeah.
you kind of just got to find the time and prioritize properly. And then when you do get those moments to go and do stuff or hang out with your friends or go out for a night, take full advantage, have fun, try to like really, enjoy your time because
Yeah.
it's short. Time is short.
Yeah. Especially when you have a 2-year-old though. Don't have too much fun because the next morning they're up still at that early hour, bro.
Very early. Yeah, very early. They were up at 6, both of them, basically, so
Oh
I'm
man.
up at 6.
Oh, they'll keep you young and full of energy, but they will beat you down though.
And God bless my wife. She's very, really on top of them and their schedule, so that's been big for our family and making sure that we understand the rules. Because she works with NJ Gourmet too,
Okay.
but
Awesome.
making sure that, hey, if you're taking care of the house, don't worry, I got this. I'll take care of the business. And she does some things, for the business, just like I do some things at home. But in the end, we have to be a team for parenting, making sure that, we're teaching them everything. So it's a lot of planning and talking and trying to figure out.
Did you meet her at your job? Because
No,
oh, thank God, because that was an HR
no,
mission.
no, she's been with me I've been together with her for 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
So we actually, yeah, we met when I pretty much had like nothing. I met her at a bus stop. So,
That's awesome, dude.
we were both commuting for work at the time. And yeah, so that would have been rough though if I just like found her at work and met her. But she, at one point she was still doing like for years, still in her own career. She worked in dental field. So she was a dental assistant
Mm,
and hygienist. And at one point, when we had kids, we're like, hey, we have to make the sacrifice. We got to make the jump. It's either now or never.
Of
You
course.
either work part-time with NJ Gourmet and, eventually take on a full-time role while being a mom at home and taking care of the house, or we keep that separate and, she made the sacrifice to be on board fully like that. So
That's awesome. You have a real partner there.
thank
So,
thank God.
yeah. Now, who cooks at home?
Believe it or not, she does most of the cooking at home. Everyone thinks that like, they'll tell her like, "Oh, you have a chef for husband. He must be cooking all this amazing food for you all the time." But sometimes when I'm home, I don't even want to look at a pot or a pan, just because I'm around it so much. And also, I hate having to eat my own cooking all the time. So it's really nice to have somebody else prepare like a meal for you. And
No,
even if I like go out to a friend's house, or something just to get a bowl that I didn't have to cook or anything, to get a nice warm meal for someone else is the best.
that
And
is
she
very
does
sweet.
a lot of the cooking.
Just don't critique them 'cause then that's
No,
messed
no.
up.
It's funny that took me a while because in the beginning I used to be like that where if I would taste something somewhere, I'd be like, yeah, probably a little more cumin or something. But over time, like I said, I just started to really appreciate just the effort that goes into making a meal, because of how much time I've put in. That now when I get a plate of something at my mom's or dad's or somewhere, I'm not gonna bust their chops on salt or anything. I'm just happy to eat something from
That's good.
somebody else.
Now, as a father, right? You have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Are you
Yeah.
raising them like really strict with their diets, or you let them be like regular kids, or is there like a happy medium? What are you doing with that?
So, it's probably really hard to get them on a full strict schedule because
Of course,
kids,
yeah.
they are picky eaters. But we do try big time, especially with trying to, bring in healthy ingredients like organic stuff, grass-fed stuff when we can, like when there's things, obviously we have to make, sacrifices if you're out to eat or if you're at a family member's house. But one thing like my kid, for example, liked is the buttered noodles.
Mm,
So grandma would make buttered noodles for him, and then he wanted buttered noodles. So basically, what I eventually started doing is okay, if he likes this, we bought the Barilla protein pasta, and I bought grass fed butter. We're using, Parmesan cheese, fresh Parmesan cheese, and a little pinch of salt. So now I created this, I took this basically a bland meal that's just full of carbs and wheat, and now I have a protein packed dish using healthy fats with the grass fed butter. And now I feel comfortable giving this to my kid. You
you
know?
gotta share that because my son loves pasta with butter. I was like, "Bro, you can have
Oh
anything
yeah.
you want, pasta with butter." I was like, "Are you kidding
It'll
me?"
change. He'll eat it just like the old pasta. He's not even gonna notice
Uh,
because that was the thing is that I was usually just using regular spaghetti for them, and you're thinking, oh, they might not like this protein pasta, but Barilla. I swear it's not a paid ad, but Barilla makes a good protein
Oh,
pasta.
we use that too. It's super delicious.
Great, right? Yeah, it's awesome. They love it. So it's a good source of that. And of course, you want to make sure kids are, drinking enough water and stuff because you'll see that doesn't happen. So we're always trying to point those things out, making sure they eat their fruits and vegetables. Eggs, we're very big on eggs in the morning. Um, so those have been like things that you try to do. But of course, you gotta let them be kids. They're gonna
Of
want to eat
course.
candy on Halloween. They're gonna want to snack. We have fun.
That's awesome. Tell my audience something that maybe we didn't touch or that you some advice or something for them.
Wow, steep advice. Honestly, yeah, like I said before, I feel like life is short. Just there's, like I said, I still feel like even though I'm 34, I remember what it was like to be a kid. And I'm about to be 35. I'm not saying I'm that old, but I look at my hair. I was joking before about balding now. I got grays. I got 2 kids, and it just happened out of nowhere.
Oh, it's gonna get worse, trust me.
So I just try to really embrace all that time, and try to really do whatever you can to appreciate and enjoy it. I'm so grateful now to like be able to have this life where I don't have to worry so much about, money and things. My real worry is am I spending my time wisely? So I think just to really value every bit that you have, every time that you like the time you have with your family, with your friends, try to really enjoy it, appreciate it, not sweat the small stuff, and I think that things will be okay.
That was great advice, by the way, and thanks for coming. And everyone, go check out njgourmet.com, correct?
Yeah, mynjgourmet.com. You can follow us on Instagram or any Facebook at NJ Gourmet.
All right, awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And guys, I hope this helps.